Curtis figured it. You're funny. I gotta find that. Where it is. Fuck.
Yo.
Okay, so Steven's being interviewed by YouTube's What Up Ninja, and he's getting a little bit impatient, so let's see how it's going.
Christ says you gotta take your cues. I got the homie being a ninja with me as always.
What's up? And that's right, it's May 13th. It's a beautiful day.
Y'all
It's
never
finally
figured this one
arrived.
out.
Y'all probably thought it was gonna be Bone Thug or something like that, but nope. We're here in an undisclosed location, like always, hanging out with Freak Out Kid, Waffle Pond. What's up?
What's
man?
up?
How are you?
Hey,
random.
What's up, bro?
Not much. Trying to see how my wrist does without the wrapping on it. Doing good so far.
Aaron.
Did you get a look at it?
What's up, bro?
Was it good?
They're still in like you're still like in pain. Just like you're still like in pain and stuff.
No, it's just still that those two spots of numbness. Better.
Yeah, fortunate considering. Okay, that was the most unnecessary thing I've ever seen. You cut.
It's getting really hot. I left. Oh. There it is.
It cut out for a minute. Like, short one. Well,
It kind of sounding like a little bit different.
what?
Are you okay? You okay?
Yeah.
It's getting hot here, arcade. It's getting I'm like all sweaty and stuff. Like walking outside.
Yeah.
Like I hate,
It'll be like that here probably pretty soon.
how does it get? Wait, where are you at? Wait, where are you at again? Michigan?
I'm in that bay right above Green Bay, not the
Oh,
city.
so
It's like that bay that along the shore of the UP, the southern part.
okay. I get hot there probably. Yeah, I think it's hot there. Yeah.
I told you.
Well, not. I mean, he touched me. I think he rubbed something on my actual shoulder.
Nah, dude, you're good. I was just saying what's up, man. Thank you
All
for
right.
being a part
I
of the
told you
channel.
don't touch him, dude. Like it's.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I totally
told
forgot
you.
about I'm sorry, man. He did tell me that.
All right,
I didn't
it's
mean
cool.
to touch you. I'm a
It's
touchy
totally
person.
cool,
I'm
man.
sorry. I did
That's
forget.
cool.
I did.
I know you didn't do it on purpose. It's fine.
Thank you for being a part of the channel, man. We know you didn't have to do it, and we appreciate you taking time out of your day to come be a part of this with us. So thank you.
No problem, man. I'm glad to be here.
Cool. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it like we always do, man. First off, shout outs to you and your brother for the YouTube channel that you guys have. Very successful.
You don't
Over
know
a
who this
million
is.
subscribers.
Sleeping under a rock.
Millions and millions upon millions of views. Great action and compliments to you guys on all that. And you guys should fucking go see what we're talking about because I've given you all that information if you don't already know who it is that we're talking about.
What we came to talk about today is not that. Not that we won't touch on that, but what we came to talk about, and we discussed, a lot of people don't know this about you. You have some music that you put out.
I have a couple songs out. Nothing I would show off or I'm super proud of or anything, but I consider myself more of a rap fan than an artist. I really enjoy rap music.
Okay.
Yes, we actually found out about you from a friend. He happened to have a sample CD,
Yeah.
and he gave it to us, and we listened. We're like, no way, that's him. And we're like, we gotta get in touch with this guy, man, because that. We actually thought it was pretty decent, man. We heard a lot of people, and we liked it. So
I think that means a lot because I just kind of makes me cringe nowadays to listen to it because I'm just like, that's not. But it made me appreciate what rappers do more, and just the whole art of rapping. I think they don't get enough credit a lot of times, and people just think it's not music when it is.
So we're heading into. So you may be a rapper in the future. You're gonna keep doing this. You gotta have that. As y'all know, we are Naptown's favorite stoners, so we gotta ask the question. Might as well ask it now.
yeah, as rappers like to do.
Most rappers that blow that chronic, man.
What?
That chronic, man. You smoke?
I think that's a pretty inappropriate question, personally. But I
Yeah,
don't. I
come on,
don't smoke. It's not that I'm not answering it because I do. I don't. I never would. I don't agree with it at all, and I don't really see why that has to be so closely connected with music. But no, I would never.
I apologize. It's just what I thought we discussed. We're Naptown's favorite stoners, and that's what we. But we're gonna move on from that.
You sound kind of aggressive about
Well,
it.
no, I'm just saying. Yeah, well, you sound kind of aggressive, and when you put your hand
That's
on my
fine.
shoulder, I think that's what you rubbed on me. Because I know, even though I don't smoke it, I listen to rap. I know the Snoop Dogg, Sticky Icky. I think that's what you just put on me. I think you rubbed it on my shoulder.
I didn't rub it on you, but I probably definitely have weed on my hands. There's no.
Oh wow, that's nice. That's nice to admit.
Okay, so Steven's girlfriend.
Hi. Computer died. Computer died. But I'm back on now. Yeah, I turned it back on. I had to plug in the computer. Hey, Jason. Hey, what's up, Jason? Nah, I just didn't feel like it, man. I don't know. I'm not good at playing games, man. I don't know. They're kind of confusing for me sometimes. Like, just like, I don't know. I'm just not good at games, man, that much. They're a bit confusing. They're a bit confusing for me. Let me refresh this. Can you guys? Are you guys still in the chat? Aaron and Jason. What the heck is going on? Gosh. Wait, what? What? Oh my. Son of a. Oh my. So I'm gonna plug in. You guys still in the chat? Okay. Jason, you still there? Right? You still in there, man? Jason? Yeah, sorry, man. Sorry if I wasn't playing the game, man. I'm sorry. I still don't feel like it, man. I don't know. But I'll watch, though. I mean, I'll like tune in a little bit.
Do. So. Oh my god. What the heck? Steven! Steven! Steven!
What? I hear you. What?
Why are you wearing that mask?
Because it freaking stinks in here. And I don't have to answer every time you call my name. You're not my dad.
Yeah, what is
You're really starting to scare everyone.
Well, yeah, everyone wants to treat me like I'm too stupid to raise a kid, and then I have to raise an egg like I'm a bird. I'll act like one. I'll be a JA. I'll join everybody.
You'll be a what?
A JA, a Jack. You know what? Go away, please. Thank you. Bye. I'm making a point. You know I'm making a point. Go! Back up, dude!
Wait.
You know I'm making a point!
What do you
Back
mean?
up! Back up!
Oh my god! You broke your egg!
Yeah, because you made me trip over it!
No.
Those are ducks, I think, yeah.
It hasn't even been a day.
Yeah, you absolutely caused that, and I'm glad it's on film that you're the one that protagonized me
That's why
and
he's
antagonized
just
me
good,
and patronized me and made me do that.
Well, you know, Brianna's.
I'm gonna tell her what with a lie. Off of a lie. I think if I go to her and tell her what happened, she's gonna have more respect for me, and I think that's gonna make us stronger.
Wow. That's really mature of you, Steven.
Yeah, and that's really sorry.
I'll make it. How you doing?
Good.
Yes. I need a reservation.
A reservation for when?
Yes. Tomorrow evening.
Tomorrow night for dinner?
Yeah.
Okay, and how many
Yeah.
people?
5.
5 people?
5.
Okay. What time are
Yeah.
you guys coming in?
12.
Are you coming in for lunch or for dinner?
Oh. I like both.
You'd like to what? I need
Go
to know
ahead.
if you're coming. Huh?
Go ahead.
Both?
You're the one that called me needs to make a reservation. Do you need
Yeah,
to come in for
I
lunch?
do.
Or do you need to come in for dinner?
I do.
You do what?
I mean, I don't
And if you was in my face, then you show business even talking.
see how
So you sit
low
down,
drugs have made
you
you
think about
sink.
this. When you think you want to get a little bit more reasonable, then call me back and talk to me, okay? Other than that, I'm really busy right now. So
I think we should
think
talk
about
about
it,
this.
and then we can talk,
We're gonna-
okay?
I'm just.
This is this video for you.
I'm just not.
Like this one's pretty
It's
funny.
just. The whole world
$1,500
got crazy.
will get you a conversation with me. So, man, sit
Don't
back
mind
and
me.
get
I
your
was
thoughts-
just gonna.
It's like
get,
this is just
get
low.
your thoughts together, correct your reasoning and everything, and when you get more social and more reasonable, call me back. But right now, I'm really busy. I'm in the middle of moving stuff. It's
He's like
raining.
being
I
cheap.
gotta get this crap off my truck.
I'm not upset with
But other
you.
than that, man, I appreciate you calling me. Think about everything. Give me a call after a while.
I'm damn sorry if I bothered you.
That's all right.
I'm sorry. I really am.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Deal.
Hello?
It's a good day to you, sir. Okay,
Hey, how are
here's the deal. 78 Harley in mint condition?
It's a 79 lowrider.
Okay. This is a very special bike. You know what this bike means to me?
Oh, you grew up with one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up, my first one was a 76 Super Glide, so I know what you mean.
I was just sitting here thinking I was talking to some ambitious youngster eager to make good.
Yeah, no, I'm a retired guy, actually. I grew up on these things.
Oh, it's an exciting time then.
Yeah. So what were you thinking? You need to know a little information about it?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I don't know. You read the ad, I guess.
Yeah.
Got a new rear caliper, new rear tire. Valve job isn't that old. Battery new last year. Solenoid was changed. Got a new solenoid on there. It starts right up.
Got home from the hospital, he was jacked up on morphine.
The fuck? Remember this video? Remember this video? The color beard. This is one of my favorite. This is one of my favorite Lunatic Dad videos. Color beard.
Can't take this.
You better not have put dog shit on my face. You better not have put dog shit on my face. You a good boy. You're an asshole. You're an asshole. I'm freaking sleeping.
I mean, I don't blame him for being mad at me. He was trying to sleep. He's just like holding his beard while he's trying to sleep.
What the hell is this?
It's just for men.
You allow this shit?
What did you do?
You, I thought he put dog shit on my face. It's fucking hair dye.
Dog
What is wrong with you?
crap.
You're an asshole. You are an asshole. Fucking sleep me.
Wash her because then it's going to stay on your face and then you're going to look like somebody just put out a dog crap on you.
I thought he put dog shit in my face.
No,
You're an asshole.
You wash it because it's
You're an
all
asshole.
over.
You are such an.
Welcome back to the feud, everybody. Hey, everyone. I'm gonna ask you 5 questions in 20 seconds. If you can't think of something, you just say
Stop
pass.
lecturing me, please.
All right, come over 200 points. Look right there. Tell them what you're gonna win.
The staff job. Double the money.
All right, you ready? 20 seconds on the clock, please. If you were a stripper, which superhero's name would you use?
Spider-Man.
Name something that gives you the chills.
My back.
Name an insect that flies.
Little Goblin Jr.
Name something in your house that creaks.
This damn door.
How many days have you gone without bathing?
3,000.
Let's start. Let's see. If you were a stripper, which superhero's
3,000?
name would you use? You said.
That's crazy.
Survey said. Name something that gives you the chills. You said. Survey said. Name an insect that flies. You said. Survey said.
How'd you like that, Spidey?
Name something in your house that creaks. You said. Survey said.
The damn dog.
They love me. How many days have you gone without bathing? You said. Survey said.
2,000?
You can't make this stuff up.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye. I need that money.
Ooh, you missed a number video. I'm gonna watch that one. Alright, oh, do the wrong thing.
Hey, Twins fans, you're
Dang
sadly win.
Green Night Horse.
This happened when I was really young. I'm talking 2nd or 3rd grade. It's hard for me to remember things clearly from that long ago, but this memory stands out for reasons you'll soon understand. It was a school day, and it had been raining cats and dogs all day. After picking me up from school, my parents left the house for some upscale events. I can't remember if it was a fundraiser or a dinner party or something else entirely. Either way, they were supposed to come back home that night, but while they were gone, the storm picked up like crazy, and it became unsafe to drive long distances. So instead of driving back home, they reluctantly decided to spend the night at one of their friends' houses who lived much closer to where the event was. I remember them calling me on the house phone and repeatedly apologizing for leaving me there by myself, even though I insisted that I wasn't even hungry and I'd be fine. My mom gave me a list of things to do before bed. Lock all the doors and windows, keep at least one house light on, make sure all the blinds were closed, typical stuff. At the time—
I'll be right back, guys. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. What the hell? Wait, what? Oh, there we go. For this
time, I didn't understand why they were making such a big deal about everything. I wasn't quite old enough to realize how important it was to not leave kids my age home alone. In fact, I was actually kind of excited to have the place to myself. It meant unlimited candy and no bedtime. I obviously didn't have a TV or any kind of screen in my room, so I stayed downstairs in the living room watching TV on the couch.
Okay.
I told myself I'd do all that stuff my mom had requested.
Well, you and I should have had the door locked. And like everything else locked. So no one breaks in.
Did right before going to sleep, since I was planning on staying up all night anyway. But at some point later in the night, the sugar crash got to me, and I accidentally fell asleep. No surprise there. I don't remember exactly what time I ended up waking up, but it was late enough for the TV to have gone into sleep mode, so 3 hours minimum. I distinctly remember being much colder when I woke up. Nothing too out of the ordinary. I mean, temperatures dropped at night, but the difference was significant enough for me to instantly make the connection, even at that young age. I thought about just curling back up and going back to sleep, but then I remembered the list my mom had given me. Even at that age, I knew she'd find out if I didn't do it, and I really didn't want to get in trouble after she trusted me to stay home alone. So I forced myself off the couch and went to check the windows and doors. I went around and did everything she asked. Locked the front and back doors, closed all the blinds, checked the windows, even the light. Everything was shut tight, which confused me a little because the house still felt way colder than it should have. I even put my hand against a couple of the windows to make sure they weren't cracked open or something, but they were all sealed. I figured maybe the storm knocked out the heater or something, and I didn't think much more about it. That explanation made sense to me at the time, and I was so tired that I couldn't devote more energy to thinking about the heat. So I headed upstairs to my room, ready to crawl into bed and forget about it. When I got to my room, I finally realized just how bad the storm had gotten. Our living room is tucked into the center of the house, so I hadn't really been able to appreciate the storm from down there. My childhood bedroom has a big external window though, so I could hear everything. The rain was slamming against the glass like it was trying to get in, and every minute or so there was a burst of lightning followed by a deafening clash of thunder.
Oh God. I guess he had his window open in his room or something like that, maybe. Or they got into his room, maybe. I don't know. Someone would maybe.
I wasn't scared of storms at that age, but I do remember being concerned that a tree was going to fall on the house. That's probably why I had trouble falling back asleep, even though I had been dead tired not even 20 minutes prior. As I was lying there, trying to fall asleep, I started picking up on these odd sounds. Every so often, there were these weird creaking sounds, like shifting wood. Thing is, the entire floor is carpeted, so it couldn't have been coming from
the attic.
At first, I thought it was a tree swaying in the wind, but the sound didn't quite fit. Even then, I knew the general sounds associated with thunderstorms. This definitely wasn't one of them. It started bothering me after a while. For whatever reason, it wasn't the storm keeping me up. It was that stupid sound. I couldn't take it much longer, so I sat up and looked around the room, not really sure what I was looking for. I listened, trying to drown out the sounds of the storm and focus in on the creaking. Lightning flashed, illuminating the whole room. Everything looked normal, but my eyes were drawn to the only wooden thing in the room, the closet. The room went dark again, and I sat there perfectly still. About a minute later, lightning flashed again, and my room was once again lit up for just a split second. And in that split second, I saw something that made me choke. The closet door was slightly ajar. It had been closed before. I was 100% sure of it. Something had opened it.
Someone's in there.
There was something in my room. I didn't scream. I didn't speak. I didn't even think. I just got out of bed as quietly as I could and walked out of the room. That walk from the bed to the door felt like a 500-mile, 5-year journey. I immediately went downstairs and hid under the dining room table. Then, and only then, I started crying. I didn't know what else to do. There was someone in my house, in my room, and my parents were too far away to help me. I'm not sure how long I stayed under that table, but at one point, I heard footsteps walking down the stairs. I held my breath, knowing that any sound I made could have ended my life. They weren't normal footsteps. It sounded like whatever it was jumping and pinballing down the stairs. The footsteps got closer. They were approaching the dining room table like they knew where I was hiding. I can't tell you how scared I was. I really thought I was gonna die. And then, from under the table, I saw them. I couldn't see their upper body, but 2 bare feet walked into view. 2 nasty, wet, and muddy legs that were tinted yellow. I couldn't tell if they were male or female legs. That's how gross and almost disfigured they looked. There were cuts all over their legs, like they had rolled around in a thorn bush. They were also stumbling, like they were struggling to even stand
How'd they get
upright.
in?
And just as I thought it couldn't get any worse, they dropped something. It was a wrench. It clattered against the floor, and I'm telling you, it took every fiber in my being to fight back a scream. If that person bent down to pick the wrench up, they'd definitely see me. With wide eyes, I watched as that person stood still, not picking up the wrench, but not walking away either. It felt like a standoff.
Oh my
where
God.
Any wrong move could end my life. Eventually, they finally continued walking, and I couldn't see them anymore. I listened as the chaotic footsteps stomped and stumbled around my first floor for what felt like an eternity. And then, finally, the front door opened and shut. They were gone. I stayed hidden under that table for a long time after that. Part of it was fear, but another part of it was what I can only describe as trauma. I just remember being shaken and scared. I was at the ripe age where I understood how dangerous the situation was, but not old enough to know how to deal with it. The rest of the night was kind of a blur. I picked the wrench up off the floor, not wanting my parents to find it the next morning. After making sure the front door was locked, I slunked back upstairs, crawled into bed, and fell asleep. Everything went back to normal after that. For whatever reason, I was terrified to tell my parents. I didn't want them to find out I hadn't locked the doors and done everything they had asked me to do, so I just kept the whole thing to myself.
Otherwise, the guy wouldn't have came in.
It wasn't until several years later that I told them the story, and it actually took some convincing for them to believe me. Looking back, not telling them the moment it happened was an awful decision, since there was nothing that could have been done about it so far removed from the incident. If I'm being frank, this experience traumatized me for basically the rest of my childhood. I slept with a nightlight from then on, and I developed a fear of the dark that didn't go away for a long time. I still have trouble explaining what happened that night, but I learned my lesson. Lock your doors at night.
Well, yeah, that's obvious. You obviously do that, yeah. That's obvious.
I'm an only child and live with my mom and dad in a decently sized home. It's a little big for just the 3 of us, but my parents' running joke is that it was never their intention to have only 1 kid. They just never got around to having more. Anyway, I was 15 when this happened. It was a rainy Saturday night sometime in May. I can't remember exactly when this happened, but I do remember that it was during one of the last weekends before summer started up. There's one last thing I have to mention. I have a lot of weird medical conditions that make my life difficult. I get frequent panic attacks, faint easily, and struggle breathing at times. I'm also one of those weird people who needs complete and total silence to fall asleep. Like, even a small fan is enough to keep me awake. I've mostly learned how to deal with it, but sleepovers and vacations are still unbearable. People always tell me they love the sound of rain and that it helps them fall asleep, but it does the exact opposite for me. It doesn't rain often where I'm from, but every now and then...
I'm like the opposite of that, usually. I need like a fan or something like that, or like a heater. It's a noise of something. Be able to fall asleep. I have fallen asleep where it's like quiet though, but in most cases, usually, I'll need like, at least something that has some, even if it's like white noise or something, or like I don't know. It's just way too quiet. Then I can't. And I usually can't do it if it's too quiet. Like if it's just like dead silent, it's like hard for me to fall asleep then. I mean, I can sometimes, but I'm not saying I can't. I can, but I'd rather have a fan though, or something with noise.
Then we get these insane.
Not something annoying though. Not like any noise. Just like a fan or something or a heater, or like one of those like apps that or like or those YouTube video with like the white noise. You put on like white noise, yeah, like something like that.
Downpours that keep me up all night. To be fair, it wasn't a full-on thunderstorm, but it was raining heavily enough to keep me up. No matter what I tried, I couldn't block out the sound of raindrops pattering against the roof. It was late, sometime well after midnight, when I faced the reality that I wasn't going to sleep anytime soon. So I got out of bed and thought about ways I could expend some energy. Eventually, I decided to go for a little walk in the rain. This wasn't the first time I had done that.
I've like always used a fan like for years. I always sleep with like a fan or something.
In the rain was actually something my parents encouraged me to do when I couldn't sleep. We live in a very safe residential area, and there's a huge public park that borders my house, so being out late isn't dangerous at all. Plus, the park is very well lit, which is another one of the reasons I've always felt so comfortable walking there late at night. I put on a rain jacket, quietly walked downstairs, and stepped outside without even bothering to bring an umbrella. I purposely didn't bring my phone because I knew myself well enough that a phone screen was only going to keep me up. It was oddly peaceful outside. I've always been one for nature, and seeing all the trees gently swaying in the wind with the raindrops screaming down their branches was exactly what I wanted. After about 20 minutes, I started to feel myself getting tired, which was a good thing. I turned around and started walking back towards my house, figuring I'd be able to fall asleep by the time I got back. As I was cutting through the park, I glanced toward the road and saw something strange. There was a long black object lying flat in the middle of the street. At first, I thought it was an oddly shaped garbage bag or something like that, but the more I looked at it, the more I realized what it was. It was a person just lying there in the middle of the street. They were face down too from the looks of it. I felt a sick feeling bubbling up in my stomach.
What the hell?
The only thought bouncing around my brain was the likely possibility that they had been hit by a car and were injured. Or worse. There was no other logical reason why someone would be lying motionlessly in the street, especially while it was raining.
Oh no.
As much as my gut told me to just keep my head down and continue walking.
Oh my... There's a dead person laying in the middle of the road? What the hell? How is that even... What? What's the chances of you see? Why the hell would you like stumble upon that? That's crazy. Or maybe even they're not dead. They're just like some person just like doing that. Just laying in the...
I felt like I had to do something. My parents raised me a certain way. If I see a person in need, I have to help them. So
okay, I mean, be careful. That's not for sure someone in need. I don't...
My instincts, I started approaching the person in the street. As I got closer, I was able to make out what they were wearing. Black pants and a dark plaid shirt. Definitely not the type of attire someone would wear during heavy rain. Judging by the clothing, it was a man, but that's what I had already assumed. I'm not sure if it was the gravity of the situation or something else, but as I was walking toward the street, I realized for the first time that night how cold I was. Like the rain was lukewarm one second and ice cold the next, if that even makes any sense. As I was closing in on the road, a screech rang out from somewhere behind me. Instincts took over and I whipped my head around, adrenaline flooding my veins. It sounded like a howl, but slightly off. Like a wounded animal. That's the only way I can describe it. A quick scan of the tree line revealed nothing. The sound must have come from deeper in the park, meaning there was no imminent danger. Still, the sheer strangeness of it all had my heart racing.
Yeah, this is
I had
weird.
never heard anything like it before. The lack of an explanation was what triggered that feeling of pure fear. But that feeling was about to get 1,000 times worse, because when I turned back around and faced the street, that person wasn't lying down anymore. They were sitting perfectly upright, staring at me. In that moment, Everything started fading and my vision narrowed. The only thing keeping me from passing out right there was the muffled sound of 1,000 raindrops pattering all around me. Before I could react, that person stood up and started sprinting towards me with a demonic smile on his face. And what's worse, he was holding what looked like a kitchen knife. Up until that moment, I didn't know what it meant to truly fear for your life.
Oh my God.
I snapped out of my haze and ran as fast as I could in the opposite direction. As soon as I started running, I heard him yell, "I'll kill you," at the top of his lungs. The wet grass made it impossible to run at full speed, but my one saving grace was that whoever was chasing me would have to deal with the same thing. I didn't want to lead him to my house, so I ran towards the trees, hoping I could lose him in the park. That's where the screech had just come from, I know, but I didn't have another choice. I didn't look back once. I just ran like my life depended on it. And considering how insanely cracked out that guy looked, I think my life actually did depend on it. I ran towards the densest part of the park, hoping I'd be able to hide in there before he caught up to me. I didn't even know if he was still chasing me, but I didn't care. Part of me felt like if I stopped running, the fear would catch up to me and I'd pass out immediately. I made it into the woods, and right when I was about to throw up from exhaustion, I ducked behind a tree and tried to catch my breath. I looked behind me, and there was no one, or at least no one I could see. The only thought on my mind at that point was how in the world I was going to get home safely. I didn't feel comfortable moving, so I just waited there. I must have waited at least 20 minutes before finally stepping out from behind that tree. I took the long way home, around the backside of the park and through this other section that spit me out a few streets away from my house. No one followed me. I finally made it home and collapsed on my bed, drenched and basically traumatized. I never got an answer for anything that happened that night. That howl is honestly what confuses me the most. I have a hard time believing it was somehow related to the man that tried to attack me, but it's just too coincidental. I think what happened is that guy heard the screech too, looked up, saw me, and then did whatever he did for whatever reason. As for his motivation, I have no idea. There's just crazy people out there. Maybe he was on drugs or something. I know it's not a real explanation, but I can't think of a better one. I still live in the same house today, and even though several years have gone by, it's hard not to think about this experience every so often.
That would be terrifying. Dude.
I'm 29 years old, and one of the only things that's ever really helped me clear my head is camping. Not campgrounds or national parks where there's other people around. I'm talking true middle of nowhere camping.
It catches up to you, gets kills.
I grew up in Northern California, and I've spent the better part of my adult life learning to find those remote little pockets where you can still feel like the only person left on Earth.
The feeling would be.
This story took place a few months ago. I had just broken up with my ex, and let's just say I was going through it. I needed to be alone, so one day I just packed up my truck and headed out. I didn't have a specific plan. I just threw some gear together and decided to go back to a quiet riverside spot I'd stumbled across once before. It wasn't an official campsite or anything, just a little bend in the river you could reach if you followed this barely there dirt road past a whole lot of nothing. I got there sometime in the late afternoon, but the second I turned down the dirt path that led to the river, my stomach sank a little. There were already 2 trucks parked near the trailhead, one gray and one white. I couldn't see anyone around, but just knowing other people were out there kind of killed the vibe for me. I hadn't driven all this way out in the middle of nowhere to interact with people. I sat there for a second, debating whether I should just turn around and find another spot. But I told myself it was a big stretch of river, and chances were whoever owned those trucks were camped far enough away that I wouldn't even see them. I hiked maybe 15 minutes downriver when I saw 2 guys fishing up ahead. They looked like the type you'd expect to see fishing. Thick beards, a little overweight, heavy boots, but it seemed like they were more focused on something else. As I got closer, one of them quickly covered something with his jacket and gave me this awkward half smile. As I passed, he called out, saying something about how they were just target shooting cans and didn't mean to freak me out. I just gave a polite nod and kept walking without saying anything. As I kept walking, I couldn't help but replay the guy's comments in my head. It wasn't even what he said that bothered me. It was how rushed and awkward it came out. Like he was trying too hard to sound casual. I got that uneasy feeling you get when something doesn't quite add up, but I pushed it down. People out there weren't exactly known for their social skills. It wasn't that weird for rural folks to be a little off when it
Trust your
came to
instincts out
talking to
there when
strangers.
you're out there.
I
Trust.
told myself to let it go and focus on finding a good spot to
Seriously,
set up
trust your
camp.
instincts. Seriously.
I found a spot a little further down the bend where the trees were thicker and the trail dipped out of sight. It wasn't perfect, but it was tucked away enough that I felt like I had my own space. I set up camp, pulled out a book, and tried to settle in. It started raining lightly not long after, so I threw on my rain jacket and kept at it, letting the sound of the river and the soft drizzle drown everything else out. Later, I wandered down to the rocks by the river's edge to reflect a little bit. That's when I noticed someone across the water. It was one of the guys from earlier, the one who had called out to me, only this time he was alone. He spotted me and waved. I hesitated, then waved back, figuring it was better to be friendly. He yelled across, asking for my name. I don't know why, but I shouted back my real name, Anisha, without really thinking about it.
Don't
He
give him.
stood there for
my
a second
God.
after I answered, then pulled something out of his jacket. At first, I thought it was a phone, but then I realized it looked more like a disposable camera. Before I could even process it, he held it up and took a picture of me from across the river. And then, without another word, he just turned and started walking back up the riverbank like nothing had happened.
What?
I was beyond creeped out.
Oh my
Weird
God.
speech patterns and mannerisms were one thing,
The creep.
but
dude,
taking a
that's some
picture
creep
of me,
something.
that was next level
A picture?
strange. I headed
What?
back to my campsite and just figured I'd stay put for the rest
That's
of the night.
That's weird.
After the
Really
sun
weird.
went down, I crawled into my tent and tried to get some sleep, but my mind wouldn't shut off.
I couldn't
I
sleep
kept
there,
replaying
man.
the
Like, I
breakup
cannot
in
be
my
in the
head,
woods.
taking
with, like,
apart
the-
every word, every mistake,
Would there be-
every what if.
Would there
I
be,
don't know
like,
how long I
weirdos
lied
up
there
there?
like
Hell
that,
no,
just
creep.
listening to the river and the light patter of rain
No
against
way.
the tent. At some point, though, I started hearing something else. Faint, uneven sounds, like someone stepping carefully over wet ground. At first, I tried to convince myself it was just the rain or some animal, but the longer I listened, the clearer it became. Footsteps, circling the campsite, and the second I made that connection, my stomach dropped straight through the ground. I didn't even have to wonder who it might be. I'm no fool. I never go into the woods alone without protection, and this was no exception. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my handgun from where I kept it tucked by my sleeping bag. Then I unzipped the tent and stepped out into the rain. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears, but I needed to stay calm. I clicked my flashlight on and swept it across the trees, and there he was. That creep from earlier, standing a few yards away, half hiding behind a tree.
Oh gosh.
He wasn't smiling or scowling, he just had this blank expression on his face like he wasn't all there mentally. The scariest part wasn't his demeanor though, but the fact that he was holding a small axe in his left hand. For a second, I couldn't move. All I could think about was how far I was from anyone.
An
and
axe?
nobody would even hear me
Holy
scream if it
shit.
came to that. But somehow, I
Oh my
managed to
God.
raise the gun and level it at him. I forced my voice to stay calm, even though every part of me was screaming. As sternly as I could, I said, "Leave now or I'll kill you." His facial expression didn't change at all. It was like my words meant nothing to him.
Just
After
shoot
a
him.
few seconds of silence, he mumbled something about how his friend Ivan had discouraged him from coming to find me, and that he had to take care of Ivan. I didn't wait for him to say anything else. I fired a shot straight into the trees above his head. He stumbled a bit, clearly not expecting me to do that. I leveled the gun at him again, a little more confident now. I told him it was his last chance and to drop the axe. He did, and a huge wave of relief washed over me. But I wasn't out of the woods yet. I told him to take his shoes off so that he'd have trouble following me, and then made sure he didn't have any other weapons on his person. Once I was sure he wasn't armed, I told him to go to my tent and grab my gear. I watched him like a hawk as he fumbled with my stuff, forcing him to toss it all out into the open where I could see it. I packed the essentials as fast as I could, never letting him out of my sight. I jammed the axe into my backpack and made sure I wasn't forgetting anything. I'd have to leave the tent behind, but that was a small price to pay for staying alive. I then grabbed his shoes and threw them as far as I could into the darkness, and I told him to walk in the opposite direction. I kept the light on him the whole time, and the moment he walked far enough out of sight, I turned and started hiking back up the river as fast as I could. That was the scariest part of the whole encounter, stumbling through the pitch-black forest in the rain with a potential murderer behind me. I wasn't sure if he was following me, but I didn't care. I just kept going, trying to use the flashlight as minimally as possible. Both pickup trucks were still in the pullout when I finally made it back to my
She made him his
car.
bitch.
I didn't stop
She
though.
made him her
I
bitch.
threw everything in and sped out of there. When I got cell service back, I called the police and reported the whole incident, describing my location as best as I could. A few months have passed since then, and I'm not sure if anything ever came of it, but I'm not going out of my way to find out. What still scares me most about the whole thing is that comment he made about his friend Ivan, that he quote-unquote took care of him. I really don't want to think about what that means, but there's only so many explanations. I'm just glad I was armed. I could have easily lost my life that night if I hadn't been.
Yeah, it's good you stood up for yourself, you know, and it wasn't too scared to.
Kay offered to drive,
Stand up
so we
yourself.
packed her SUV with our stuff and hit the road that same afternoon. About an hour into the drive, we were on a mostly empty stretch of highway when Seabass spoke up. He asked us if we had seen the car behind us pull up from the shoulder right after we had passed. I looked back and saw a dark-colored Tahoe or something similar trailing us at a steady distance. I hadn't seen it pull off the shoulder, but being as we were on the highway, it wasn't exactly the weirdest thing. But then Kay changed lanes just to see, and the SUV followed. She did it again a minute later, and again, it mirrored her move. I was confused at first, but then a minute later the SUV put its lights on, and everything made sense. We were getting pulled over by an undercover cop. Kay pulled over. I watched as the
It's not
cop
undercover
pulled over
cop,
behind us.
That's some guy disguised.
I'm a pretty
himself
observant
and can do
person.
something to you.
Processing information quickly is something I was quite literally trained to do, so I instantly realized something was off. The guy who stepped out didn't look like any cop I'd ever seen. He was wearing all black tactical gear, but nothing on him that said police. The only
This kid's
thing
not a
even
cop.
remotely official looking about his uniform was a patch on his arm that said something I couldn't read. He didn't behave like a normal officer either.
Don't trust
Instead of approaching Kay's window, he stood behind the car
Get out of
like
there,
he
don't
was
even trust-
waiting
don't
for
trust it.
something. I watched him a little while longer
Trust your
and
instincts,
realized
get
he
out of there.
wasn't just
Come on.
standing behind the car, but was actively analyzing it. He was looking through the rear window like he was trying to see the stuff we packed. He was also checking out Kay's bumper stickers and her license plate. Seabass and Kay eventually caught on to the officer's strange behavior too, and Seabass rolled his window down before asking the officer if there was a problem. Instead of responding, the officer swiftly walked up to Kay's window and asked for her license and registration.
No.
Kay reluctantly gave it to him.
No!
He walked back to his vehicle and didn't return for a really long time. The three of us started whispering about how strange this whole encounter was getting, but we weren't sure what to do.
Get out of
After
there!
what felt like forever, the guy finally exited his car again, only this time, 2 other men stepped out with him. I could feel my heartbeat tick.
Oh, God. Are you dumb? Oh my gosh, are you dumb, dude? I don't care. If I see that dude, I'm not having some guys stop me. I'm running through him. I don't care, dude. Screw it. I'm not stopping. I'm not stopping unless it's an actual. I wouldn't know if it's an actual cop. I wouldn't know if it's an actual cop. You wouldn't know if it's an actual cop. I'm running through that guy. I don't care, man. I'm gonna go around him. I'm going around him. I don't care, man. I'm definitely not showing my license. I'm definitely not letting him take a peek at your license at my license plate. And he's basically getting your information. Basically, that's basically what you're doing is let this random guy get your information.
Ticking up, so I did some focused breathing to keep calm. The original officer
Speed
walked
out of
back
there.
up to Kay's window and asked her if her father was in the army or something.
Speed out of there!
Kay asked for clarification, and the officer mentioned the U.S. military bumper sticker on the back of her car. Kay laughed and
Speed
said
out
that
of
she was the
there.
one in the military, then turned to Seabass and I and said, them too. The moment Kay mentioned we were all in the military, I noticed a shift. The guy at her window didn't say anything right away, but his body language stiffened. He glanced back at the other 2 men, who were still standing near the rear of the SUV, and then he glanced back at Kay. There was a weird silence for a second, and then he just told Kay that he was letting her off with a warning and to drive more slowly. He handed back Kay's license and turned around without another word. The 3 of them got back in the car, and before Kay could even start her engine, the Tahoe pulled off and sped away. The 3 of us were dumbfounded. Seabass couldn't stop talking about how those guys weren't real officers. They would have done something shady had we all been civilians. There really wasn't much more we could do,
You're
so
lucky,
Kay just got
you're
back on the
lucky.
highway. Austin was actually a really good time, and by the time we got back to base, we had all but forgotten about the stop. It wasn't until about a week later that I was reminded of it. I was sitting in the rec room watching the local news with Seabass when a story came on that made me freeze up. Apparently, a man and woman had been found dead in a ditch along a stretch of highway just outside of San Angelo. According to the reporter, the victims had been robbed and murdered, and investigators believe they were dumped there the night before. What really got me, though, was the next part. The vehicle found abandoned near the scene was a black Tahoe. Police confirmed it had been reported stolen months earlier, several states away. Seabass and I instantly went to find Kay, and the three of us agreed we had to tell the police about what we had seen. We told the police everything, and part of me felt a surge of guilt for not telling them sooner. Even to this day, I still think about how Kay's bumper sticker may have saved our lives that day. I can't help but think about how easily it could have been us in that ditch had we not been military.
Damn, that's insane. Oh my god. That's actually insane.
I've always been a really private person. That's part of the reason I've waited so long to put this story out there. I can't think of many worse things than this story getting traced back to me somehow.
That's crazy.
But I was recently thinking about how it would be a shame to leave this earth without circulating it. So here it goes. I just want people to know that I'm really stepping out of my comfort zone doing this. About 10 years ago, I was on a solo road trip from West Patterson, New Jersey to Fort Worth, Texas. I was on the way to visit my parents, whom I hadn't seen in a while. I'd moved out of Fort Worth years earlier and hadn't been back much since, so this trip felt overdue. Somewhere in the middle of nowhere, maybe Arkansas or the edge of Oklahoma, I can't really remember exactly, my car started acting up. I tried to ignore it for a while, but eventually I had no choice but to pull over. There wasn't much around, just trees, open field, and a long empty road behind me. I popped the hood and started poking around.
These stories are crazy, man. These stories are actually insane. How the heck do you just end up in these situations? This is actually insane. Oh my gosh. No, this is actually insane though, dude. Some of these stories are actually insane. I would not know what to do in these situations. I would not know what to do. Like a fake undercover cop. A guy trying to basically kill people, lure them in. A lot of these stories are just insane. I would be absolutely terrified in these situations.
Pretending I knew what I was doing.
I know I say I would do certain things, but I feel like I don't even know what to. If I saw this though, some guy trying to stop me, I've got to trust my instincts and go through them, go around them. I have to trust my instincts and go around them. I have to.
I didn't. I was just sort of killing time, but I didn't want to admit that I was basically helpless. I figured I'd poke around for a bit, and once that failed, I'd call AAA.
I'm going around this guy.
I didn't actually have AAA, so I was really pissed because I knew they'd charge me an arm and a leg. A few minutes later, though, I heard a car pulling up behind me. It was a nondescript, white pickup truck. I remembered noting to myself that it didn't have a front plate, or at least not one I could see. The driver's door opened and a man stepped out. If I had to guess, I'd say he was in his mid-30s, maybe a little older, but worn down in a way that made him seem older than he probably was. He had curly hair and a long, uneven beard that looked like it hadn't been trimmed in years. He seemed like the kind of guy you could tell worked with his hands a lot, if that makes any sense. He honestly kind of looked like an older version of me. Same build, same height, same hair color, just a bit less well-groomed than I am. I walked over slowly, giving my car a once-over as he approached. He didn't ask if I needed help so much as assume it. Before I even said anything, he was already leaning over the engine like he knew what he was doing. I spoke up and told him what happened, then thanked him for stopping to help me. He told me he was a mechanic, and based on how quickly he got to work, I didn't question it. I was already thinking about how I could repay him for the help when he said something that kind of surprised me. After a minute or two of fiddling, he stepped back and gave the engine a look that didn't exactly inspire confidence. He muttered something about needing a compression tester. Apparently, without it, the car wasn't going to start no matter what. Then he glanced over to his truck and said his friend, another mechanic, might be able to bring one over.
No.
I honestly had no idea what the part even was that he was talking about, but he seemed genuine, so I believed him.
Don't believe him.
I thanked him
no.
again, and he pulled out his phone, presumably to call his buddy.
No.
He froze up for a few seconds while looking at his phone screen, and then put his phone back in his pocket, saying it was dead. He then asked if he could borrow mine to make the call.
No.
I didn't even think twice about it. I pulled my phone out of my...
These people in these stories are dumb, dude. I gotta say, these people in the stories are dumb. Or the situation making these stories are just dumb. You need to trust your instinct and not trust these people, man. You can't just be trusting these people. They're gonna get you killed, or they're gonna do something. You're gonna end up in a bad situation.
My pocket and handed to him without a second thought. He took it with one hand, and then, almost in the same motion, he reached into his jacket with the other and pulled out a gun. I instantly knew what was about to happen. He didn't say much, just told me to sit down on the shoulder and not try anything stupid. His voice didn't shake. He'd clearly done something like this before.
Oh my God.
Or at least thought about it enough for it to seem practiced. I did what he said. The whole thing felt strangely calm, like we were both just going through something totally normal. He rifled through my pockets and took my wallet, my backpack from the passenger seat, and even had me show him the password to my phone. Then he drove off, and that was that. I had literally just been robbed on the side of the road. I know I'm speaking about it calmly now.
Oh my
You best believe
God.
I was livid at the time.
I told
I don't
you
think
just
even
about-
now I've ever been more angry in my life. Unfortunately, there's more to this story. Much more. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but someone eventually did stop and help me. After getting my car started, they were even nice enough to give me directions all the way to my parents' house so I could do it without my phone. I made it to Fort Worth later that night, and given the circumstances, my visit with my parents was actually really nice. The next few weeks were a blur of canceling cards, replacing IDs, updating passwords, and basically recovering everything I'd lost. It was annoying and time-consuming, but I eventually squared away as much as I possibly could, and I got on with my life. Fast forward like 6 months, and that's when things started to hit the fan. One day, I got a letter in the mail from some bank I didn't recognize. It was addressed to me, thanking me for opening a new line of credit. I figured it was a scam at first, or just some kind of junk mail, but then another one came. This time from Best Buy, with a card I'd supposedly opened and already racked up over $1,000 on. The charges were all from a random town in Tennessee. At first, I was more confused than anything.
It's from that guy.
That's when it hit me. I had forgotten until that exact moment that my Social Security card was likely in my wallet when I had gotten robbed. And now, the guy who had robbed me had everything he needed to become me. The next month of my life was a living hell. My credit report was a mess. Hard inquiries, new cards, balances I didn't spend. It felt like every day there was something new. If any of you have dealt with identity theft, you know how hopeless it can seem. I filed a report with the FTC, placed a fraud alert on all 3 credit bureaus, and even froze my credit. I went to the police and gave them everything I had, but without a name or a license plate, they apparently couldn't do a thing. I filed a formal report anyway, just to have a paper trail. I even called the local police departments in each of the towns where fraud had occurred. I followed every step you're supposed to follow, but somehow it wasn't enough. Things kept escalating. Whoever was stealing my identity was being extremely cautious about it. A few weeks later, I got a call from my health insurance provider. Someone had received emergency care under my name at a hospital in Georgia. It wasn't just a billing issue. There were now records in my file that didn't belong to me. Stuff that could actually screw me over if I ever landed in the hospital and couldn't speak for myself. I obviously reported everything to the police again, but that was the last straw for me. I decided to take matters into my own hands. From then on, I transformed my whole lifestyle and spent every ounce of my free time trying to track down the perpetrator myself. I set up Google alerts for my name and any recent cities tied to the fraud. I checked my credit report constantly. I scanned forums and dug through social media. I did everything I could think of. One night, on a whim, I decided to start checking Craigslist. I focused on cities tied to the fraud, places where charges had shown up from or mail had come from.
This might be the most insane story ever, dude. This actually might be the most insane story. And guess what? None of this would have happened if you didn't. Well, this person, their car stopped working on the side of the road. You know, the car broke down. But you didn't have to give this guy. You didn't have to trust him. You didn't have to give him your damn phone. You could have just left your friggin' in that situation. I definitely would have called an actual mechanic or something like that, or an actual person to come help me. If someone just pulls into the road, that's immediately a red flag. Someone pulls up behind you, immediately a red flag. I don't care who it is, it's a red flag. And I ain't rolling down my windows for no one unless I called them. Unless there's somebody that actually called, like or someone to come fix your car, to get it, to get it fixed again, so you can be on your way. Unless I called them, I'm not rolling down that window. I'm not rolling down that window. I'm leaving the doors locked. I'm not rolling down no windows. Every door is gonna be locked. And honestly, in that situation, I would have tinted windows too. I'm having tinted windows because I don't want to see some guy pulling behind me and looking into my damn car, trying to knock on it. No. I'm going to act like nobody's in the car, okay? I'm going to be quiet. I ain't answering for nobody. I'm going to call someone as quick as I can and then be on my way. That's what I'm doing in that situation. I know I say, but I would still be a little bit scared of that situation. I definitely would. But in this case, this is like really scary. And basically someone's stealing your identity because you had your social, you had your social, your SSI or whatever your social, you had that in your damn wallet. This person has your information now and is able to basically make charge, buy stuff under you, do things under you. Yeah. That's going to be that is a whole situation to get. That's like insane. That's insane. See, and that wouldn't have happened if you didn't trust this guy. None of this would have happened if you didn't trust this guy.
After looking around for a while, something caught my eye.
Really?
It was a posting from Jackson, Tennessee. The listing was for a bunch of used power tools and some other miscellaneous items. I wasn't sure why it stood out to me so much, but the longer I looked, the more familiar it seemed. And then it clicked. Everything listed matched up perfectly with some of the things that had been charged to that Best Buy card. I sat there for a while, unsure what to do. Eventually, I responded to the listing, saying I was interested in a couple of the items and asked if they were still available. I debated trying to attach a tracker link or something clever, but I didn't want to spook whoever it was. If it was him, and he got even a hint that someone was onto him, he'd vanish. So I kept it simple. To my surprise, it didn't seem like the guy was onto me at all. After exchanging some emails over the next few days, he gave me a time and a public place to meet, and he told me to bring cash. The meeting was supposed to be the next day. I debated driving all the way to Tennessee myself, but I couldn't bring myself to. There's no telling what I would have done to that guy had I seen him in person a second time. So instead, I called the police department in Jackson to see if they remembered my case. They did, and I basically pleaded with them to help me out. I gave them everything I had and damn near prayed. By some miracle, they told me the details lined up just well enough for it to be worthwhile. They said they'd at least talk to him and see if there was any information they could get out of him. The next day, after a little back and forth, I got the guy to tell me he was driving a red pickup truck. I communicated that with the police and waited. After legitimately several hours, they called me. When they told me what had happened, I wanted to drop on my knees, I swear on my life. The officer told me that as soon as the guy spotted the patrol cars near the meetup spot, he immediately sped out of the lot. He didn't even try to play it cool. That alone was enough to raise red flags, so they followed him. Not long after, the guy ended up losing control of his truck and crashing into a ditch. It wasn't a major accident, but it was enough to get officers legally involved beyond just a casual questioning.
Damn.
According to them, he was a total wreck, visibly shaken, panicking, talking in circles, you get it. As soon as they even mentioned the Best Buy items, he folded. He admitted he didn't know where the stuff had come from, that it wasn't his, and that a friend had given it to him, and he had independently decided to resell it. It could not have been more perfect. The guy ratted out his friends, and with his cooperation, the police were able to acquire enough evidence to arrest the real perp. I've never felt more relief in my life. Like I said earlier, I'm not trying to have this traced back to me, so I'm gonna keep things vague from here on out. I will say this much though, the guy who robbed me wasn't acting alone. Turns out, there were 3 of them total. The craziest part is that I wasn't the only victim. From what I was told, they'd been targeting travelers and isolated drivers up and down a few different interstate corridors, mostly in the south. Eventually, all 3 of them were caught, charged, and put in jail. I'm not going to say much more than that, but what I will say is justice was served.
That's good. That's good. It ends with a good ending, you know, getting locked up. You know, things were resolved. That's good. Still, that's crazy. I would not want to be in that situation. That'd be way too much for me, man. I'm banning this shit now, guys. Alright, you guys have a good night. I'll see you later.